describe your assessment of the backups behind Sean, first with Will, and then also if you could talk about Taquan and Michael, and just basically what you've seen from them so far in your time on the staff.
Well, because I really have not seen any of them throw anything like that, and I've really studied, because they will only played in the Ohio State and Rutgers games. I don't have a great baseline on him either, so I had a lot of chance to watch a lot of Sean's film and his playing. But the one thing I can tell you is all three of the guys have a great work ethic. And the ability to learn. So that's what I've been able to do. With our time has really been spent in the classroom, so I've got a feel for them as people, how they learn, and they're very intelligent guys, been well trained, and looking forward to continuing to work with them. But I'm anxious to be in the field with them and watch them throw and watch them process stuff in real time.
Thank you.
Bob Flounders, Harrisburg.
Hey, Kirk, how you doing?
Doing well, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. That's quite an impressive clock you have in the background there. It's one of the bigger ones I've seen.
You can thank my wife, I guess.
Kirk, we were talking to Tyler Bowen last week, and he was kind of very impressed because of your knowledge of the finer details of all the positions on an offense, not just the quarterbacks and the wideouts, the tight ends, the guards, the tackles, and the centers. I was just curious, how long did it kind of take you to kind of master kind of the knowledge of all those positions? I know that you've been coaching for a while, and how does that help you with the installation of a new offense, and maybe also in games, knowing kind of where everyone's supposed to be and what they're supposed to be able to do?
I think it started out with kind of a product of my background. As a GA, I had opportunity to work with the tight ends, so I became interested in trying to make myself an expert in coaching tight ends. When I coached at Western Michigan, Western Connecticut, Division III school, I was the offensive coordinator there, and our offensive line coach quit in July. And so I had no choice, but I had to coach the offensive line that year. We had another guy on staff that could coach the quarterbacks. So I engrossed myself in that, and that really was very eye-opening for me and fun, and probably really helped my development as a coach, because I became fascinated with that area. So even though I moved back to quarterbacks and receivers after that year, I've always been very intrigued with O-line play. And so I constantly was asking the different line coaches I worked with, why, what are we teaching here? Just fascinated by it. Initially, I was, the receivers coach. I think my next job was at Princeton as the receivers coach, but I was still fascinated by coaching the offensive line. And then I had an opportunity later in my career to coach the running backs for a year at Delaware. Again, became fascinated by it and the intricacies of coaching that position. So it's probably was just by luck that started out that way, where I was forced to learn other positions and then just became fascinated by it. And it definitely helps you. My job is not to be the expert for offensive line play. We've got an unbelievable offensive line coach and Coach Trout. Unbelievable tight ends coach, unbelievable wide receivers coach, unbelievable running backs coach. My job is not to be the expert, but I think that it helps as a coordinator that because I know the big picture and how everything works together, that I can help them be the expert, help them become maybe give them one little tidbit that can help them be a better position coach. And I think that's part of my job. I look at it that way. Just like Coach Franklin, I know he looks at it, part of his job is to help us all be better position coaches and help me be a better coordinator. So I do think it helps, but I love football, and all the little things that go into it. So I'm interested in everything, and I'm learning from these guys every day right now. And that's one of the exciting things about joining a new staff is you have an opportunity to learn from a bunch of different people who have had all these different experiences within their career that have helped shape them and their philosophies and thoughts. So it's been a lot of fun, and we have a really, fantastic offensive staff. I mean, just sharing a bunch of different knowledge, and it's helped shape me, and I've learned a bunch too.
Next up, we have Mike Gross, Lancaster.
Hi, Kirk. Thanks for doing this today. I'm wondering what you've learned from sort of the experience of trying to install an offense remotely. What have you learned about how guys learn, how you teach, and also are there any guys in particular that seems to work for? They ask a lot of good questions. They're picking it up fast, etc.
Well, I think the one thing that, our players have shown right now is their ability to respond to the situation, and that's really a tribute to Coach Franklin and the championship culture that he's built here at Penn State. We've been presented with a situation, and now we have to attack what we have to work with. And, so we're doing this remote learning right now, and the guys have attacked it. The staff, we're all learning on the run with this. None of us, this is a whole new endeavor for all of us, everybody in the coaching profession. But what we've been doing is doing a great job of sharing ideas and thoughts of what's worked really well in these meetings, what has not worked quite as well, what we need to adapt. And I think the players have done an unbelievable job with, just staying engrossed in it. And they know that, hey, this is a situation. We're not going to be able to install something and go out and walk through it. So we've got to study it a little bit harder right now, maybe than we would have had to in the past with it, because we can't physically go out and do it. So really the credit really goes to the players and how hard they've worked at it so far. And I've been really pleased with what they've been able to grasp. And the quarterback meetings, are always more discussion oriented than lecture oriented. I need to have feedback from them, questions that they may have. I have to feel comfortable asking those questions, and so that they've been awesome, as far as that goes. But we're all learning every day. Every time we have one of these meetings, something comes up that we think of, hey, we could do this or we could do that. So, but it's just making us better.
Ben Jones, statecollege.com.
Hey, Kirk, thanks for doing this. I'm curious, you talk about getting to know the players, but getting to know the staff that you were working with, getting to know James, it's obviously it's different when you're doing it, over a phone or over a video. What has that process been like to kind of have that rapport, especially with James, since you were new and since, so many of you are new on staff?
Well, I think that one is we had the advantage. We've been together since January now. I think it would have been a lot more difficult if, this crisis would have started January 4th, and we would have been in a remote learning situation right then. So we had some time together to get to know each other a little bit and to feel comfortable enough with each other to say what's on our mind. Coach, he has a culture here where, people are going to speak up, and he wants everybody's opinion. So you're already immediately, once you come in and be part of this family here, you're immediately comfortable with giving your opinion and speaking your mind. That's what he wants, so that he can have all the information to make the best decisions moving forward for the program. So right away, as soon as the first meeting I had with the offensive staff, usually when you go somewhere new, there's an adjustment period where guys aren't really comfortable giving their feelings or how they really feel about something. There's usually two schools of thoughts. There's one where everybody is trying to tell you exactly what they think you want to hear, or people are being if I said it was red, they're going to say it's blue. but that's not the case at Penn State. Everybody's on the same page, and everybody felt real good about speaking their mind and giving their opinions. And when you're building a system like we're building here, that's needed, right? And I said before that we've got as good assistant coaches as anybody in the country. I feel like we've got the best group of guys I've ever worked with. So as we're putting this system together, Penn State's offensive system, it's been we've been all working together and all contributing together, and it's definitely not it's not my system, it's our system now. It's Penn State's players, it's the coaching staff, and we've all contributed to this thing, and that's what's been great and really exciting about it. When you have the right culture and the right direction, and you get a group of guys together that have had all the experiences that our staff has had, and you build something, it can be exciting, and I'm really excited about where we're headed and the direction that we're going in. I honestly can't wait to see this offense in motion.
Audrey Snyder, The Athletic.
Hey, Kirk, good morning. Thanks for your time. You had mentioned this blending of ideas with the offense. James has talked about it before, and you just said, you kind of can't wait to see this offense to get it going. How do you monitor progress at this point, given that everybody's all over the place? I mean, are there ways you can see, okay, this guy's more up to speed with something? I mean, can you quiz him, or is it just totally wait and see at this point?
The players you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we've been that's one of the things that that we're learning, and I think is going to make us all better coaches in the long run. One of the things that we've started to do is we'll have a meeting, and then for us, one of the ways we're getting feedback is we'll send them a quiz on the material that we just went over, right? And they'll send you the quiz back. And so you get a look at it, and you can really kind of grade yourself as a teacher, right? If the guys all bomb the quiz, then you have to look at yourself and say, shoot, I did not do a great job. I did not do a great job presenting this material. What was wrong with my presentation here? So the feedback has been immediate. At least that's how we've been attacking it. And again, really pleased with what we've been getting back from the players from a quiz standpoint. So they're obviously grasping the material. The key right now is, as we're approaching this, is we've got to make sure our players understand, execution is about alignment, assignment, technique, and then doing it, right? You got to be able to do it to execute something, right? So right now, we're focused on alignment, assignment, and technique, making sure they understand the whys. Why is it this way? Why is this better with it? And then when we get this way, so when they get back here and we start practicing, now we can focus. They already know the alignment, assignment, and technique. Now we can focus on those little details that allow you the best chance to do your job, right? And that's offensive football is 11 guys working together, all doing their job and trusting to get the next one. Did I answer that for you, Audrey?
Next up is Donnie Collins, Times Tribune.
Hey, Kirk, how you doing? You kind of mentioned that it's our system now. How much did you get done before everything kind of broke apart there? Kind of taking in input from the other coaches, and how different do you think it'll look than what you guys did at Minnesota last year?
Oh, it's definitely going to look different. We have different players with different skill sets. We came up with a whole new set of communication and terminology that's different from Minnesota. The players at Minnesota, if they walked into the meeting, they would not understand the jargon that we're using. We got a lot done, right? We put the system in before this happened. Right, we had put together the system as a group with it. So the great thing about it is, and I'm sure one of the reasons why Coach ended up selecting me to be the offensive coordinator at Penn State is the philosophies were the same, and there was already a lot of similarities between the two systems already. I know that's one of the reasons why I felt like when Coach offered me the job that this would be a smooth transition, that I knew our philosophies were in line, Coach Franklin and my philosophies were in line, and that this wasn't going to be like they were speaking English and we were going to come in and teach them how to speak French, right? We're already speaking the same language, same beliefs, and so we just build a system that we feel like will put our players in the best positions to be successful and that are taking advantage of the talents and skill sets that we have at Penn State, which is always your goal, no matter where you're coaching at. And every single year in the off season, you're analyzing your personnel and trying to build your system around a way to accentuate your players' strengths and limit their weaknesses.
Mark Brennan, Lions 247.
Hey, Kirk, thank you for doing this as well. Can you tell us how the communication end of things is going with the quarterbacks? Do you meet with them individually or as a group? And how often are you able to talk to them? Are there limits to that?
Yeah, there are limits. Right now, we have 8 hours a week that we're allowed to meet with them. I meet because I have only 4 quarterbacks, right? So I meet with them all together. And then usually each one of them I'll talk to each one of them individually at some point during the week just to see how they're doing, number one. And then number two, they always have a question or two for me about something else in a one-on-one fashion. But the other position, some of the bigger groups, I know we've split them up to try to limit the numbers a little bit. It's easier, it's more interactive. When you have less numbers, it's difficult to meet with 20 players on a Zoom meeting at one time. The interactions are harder. So that's kind of how we've approached it. But the fact that I have 4 quarterbacks, it makes it pretty easy.
Next up, Corey Geiger from the Altoona Mirror.
Morning, Kirk. Hope you're doing well. I noticed Tanner did not run a lot for you at Minnesota. The quarterbacks running have been a staple at Penn State the past few years with Trace and Sean. But at the same time, Trace and Sean kind of got banged up as the year went on, and their productivity kind of dropped as the season went on. So how do you balance, what is your balance in terms of running the quarterback but keeping him safe so that he can make it through a season?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I think that's something that you have to analyze as you're going through the season. We'd be crazy not to run our quarterbacks. That's one of the things that they do really well, and one of their strengths is their athleticism. So we're going to continue to do that. I just think that you have to be prudent with it. How many times are you asking him to run between the tackles, that type of stuff in a game? But it'll be from game to game, depending on who we're playing and what we need to do to give us the best chance to win the game. It's really that simple. But I do think that I do understand that every time I ask him to run the ball, I've increased his opportunity or risk of an injury. That's for sure. But hey, I mean, it is part of the game. And the one thing about these quarterbacks here, besides the fact that they're athletic, really been impressed with their work in the weight room and the way their bodies are built and how they look physically. And, that's a tribute to our strength staff and what they've done with these guys. They look different than Tanner did. They're built a little bit differently to be able to take a little bit more of a pounding maybe than he could have. Plus their skill sets are different.
Peter Terpstra, WTAJ.
Hey, Coach. On a personal note, how was the move to Happy Valley? And if you have any stories you'd like to share from quarantine on how you're keeping busy.
Yeah. The move has been incredible. The moving company we had, the ability for them to come through for us and get everybody moved, I was really kind of stressed about it. Being able to get the family together and everybody in one place. But the moving company that we used was unbelievable. They were able to get everything done for us. The fact that we were able to close on our house, it was incredible. We signed the paperwork on somebody's back porch while they were in the house. So it's been unbelievable, and it's just great people to be able to help get that done for us. As far as spending my time with the quarantine, my wife said to me the other day, she's like, "Geez, you seem to be working more now than ever at this time of year." So I've been really busy with the football stuff of things, and when you're doing this remotely, there's just more that goes into it. As far as that goes, with preparation and trying to get extra video out to the players, meeting with the staff. Everything takes longer to do right now when you're doing it remotely. Even just a simple phone call, right? You've got to call a simple phone call to ask somebody a question. I'm sure you guys are all experiencing this too, right? Which if you were in the office together, you would have stuck your head in somebody's door and just asked them a quick question, and they'd have given you an answer, and it would have taken 20 seconds. When you make a phone call, it's amazing. There's probably 5 minutes of BS talk that goes on before you even get to the question, and then 2 more questions come up about stuff that aren't even relevant to what your original question was, but you have the conversation anyhow. So everything just takes a little bit longer. So I think we're all very busy.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer.
Good morning, Kirk. Nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I want to go back to your Philadelphia days, if I may. You started as a GA at Temple, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And they also coached at Penn. I just wondered what you learned from both experiences, especially working for Coach Bagnoli at Penn.
Yeah, I think I was really lucky to get a GA job, but to get one at Temple and to work under a guy by the name of Jerry Burnt. He taught me a lot about how to handle yourself in a first-class manner, how to handle people in a first-class manner. And he had a very young offensive staff. So they were really good to me as a GA, really involved me in the process. A lot of football took time out of their day to teach me things and educate me. So that was an incredible experience for me. And then Coach Bagnoli was real special to me, as a real special mentor to me. He was an incredible CEO of an organization, and the way he handled his people and handled his staff and his players. The guy's been incredibly successful, Coach Bagnoli. You look at his one-loss record, it was incredible. And I still talk to him at least twice a year. Something might come up that I have a question about something, and I'll call him, because he was just fantastic at handling his people. Knew how to push all the right buttons on his staff and his players. And he was demanding, but yet never demeaning, and was very matter-of-fact about things. These are the facts, Kirk. How are we going to handle that? Or we might be having a discussion about something, and he would, say, "Hey, you're getting off track. This is what we're talking about. This is the situation. These are the possible choices. What's the best choice?" And that's what's made him so successful, I believe, in his coaching career.
Tobias Wilborn, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Hey, Coach. First of all, good to meet you, and thanks for doing this. Question is, can you give me an idea of what a day looks like for you, from what time you get up, get started, until what time you're kind of done, and what that process looks like now?
Yeah, I think our sports science people here at Penn State, Nelly, made a great suggestion at the very beginning. He was really talking about to our players, and he talked about staying on your routine, right? So it probably took me about a week to establish a routine, but right away I just said, hey, I'm going to start work every day at 7:00. That's how I did go. So I was starting work at 7 anyhow. But I think what we've been able to do over the course of time is now I have a schedule and an itinerary Monday from, and I'll pull it out right here real quick. I've got it right here in front of me. Monday from 7 to 10, I would do football. At 10 o'clock, we have a staff meeting. From 11 to 3, I'm doing football and recruiting. That's when I try to slot my recruiting calls in there. And then at 3 o'clock, I have a quarterback meeting. And then in the evening, I set a goal for myself to do 3 evaluations, recruiting evals, every evening. So that's a Monday, and Tuesday is just a little bit different itinerary, but it's set up all the way from 7 in the morning until 5. And then I have something in the PM that I'll work on a little bit.
Greg Pickle, Penn Live.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You mentioned recruiting. How difficult has that been, not only not being able to get out here in the next week, I guess, to maybe see quarterbacks throw, but also just doing all this remotely, especially as some kids have online learning in their state, some don't, and I'm sure the schedules can be pretty hard to match up with yours and everything else.
I mean, it's just a little bit more challenging, Greg, but we can't control all these other things. The only thing we can control right now is we've got to make sure we're washing our hands frequently and practicing social distancing, right? But as far as the recruiting goes, yeah, I mean, we can't. Everybody is dealing with the same thing, though. I don't see it being an advantage or a disadvantage for anybody. It would be great if I could get out and watch the quarterbacks throw. It's great when the kids can come on campus and you can spend time interacting with them in person and getting a feel for them and whether or not they're the right people for your program and whether or not they can get a feel for whether or not you're the right people for them. So that is a challenge. But what we can do is get on the phone and FaceTime with these recruits and continue to recruit them and educate them about what their life will be like if they decide to choose Penn State. What are not only the next 4 to 5 years going to be like, but paint an accurate picture for what the next 40 years of their life will be like if they choose Penn State and what we're all about.
John Sauber, Center Daily Times.
Hey, Kirk, thanks for doing this. Since you've only had a chance to see Sean throw really because of the game film that you have from this year, where do you think he has to improve most from his first year as a starter to his second year as a starter?
Well, I think one is, I think with every quarterback, experience in any facet, experience is a great teacher, but only if you're willing to learn from your past, right? So he has to be able to apply the experiences, take the mistakes that he might have made last year that all quarterbacks make, right? And the key to becoming an elite level quarterback is being able to learn from your mistakes, right? And apply that knowledge to the next time you're in that same situation. And that's one of the common denominators of all elite quarterbacks. They're able to learn from their experiences and then be able to apply them the next time they're in that type of situation, right? And that's the difference between being good and great, in my opinion. A guy with a great skill set, he has some great games, but he probably never really develops that consistency that you're looking for. So that's the number one thing that he's got to be able to do is apply those experiences, and from that, he can't help but improve if you can do that. But that's easier said than done. With it. But the one thing Sean has is he wants to be great, right? And he's very eager to learn new things, new approaches, new ways to maybe see a situation. So he's very open to learning. And so I'm just excited to see him apply what he's learned and his experiences, and let's go from there. There's always with a quarterback, you can almost look at any play and there's some little detail out there that he could have improved with on it. So like the quarterbacks are always learning. You listen to the all-time greats, Peyton Manning. He was always looking to get better, right? How can I improve my footwork? How can I improve my fundamentals? And I'm always preaching to the quarterbacks, you never know it well enough. You're never doing it well enough. So just understand that, and let's just keep grinding, right? And keep making sure that we're getting better every day. And really that's the key, right? Is the ability to grind every day, right? Because you have this vision for yourself, this goal, this vision that you want to be, right? But you got to look at if you're going to get to that point, you have to be willing to do the work, right? Or you're never going to get there. It's just a dream, right? If you're not willing to do the work, it's just a dream. It's not really a vision for yourself. And that's one of the things that's impressed me about Sean and really the other quarterbacks too, and everybody in the program, is their willingness to do the work to get to where they want to get to. And that's how you build a championship culture, and that's what Coach Franklin's culture is all about, is the willingness to do the work to get to where you want to get to. And again, that's what you're looking for when you come into a new situation. And that was one of the first things that I noticed was how willing these players were to do the work to get to where they wanted to get to, because champions are champions way before they win a championship, right? It's all about having that championship work ethic is what gets you through, and never being satisfied and always understanding that I can do a little bit better and never getting bored with the process.
Time for a couple more. Jerry DePaula, Pittsburgh Tribune Review.
Thank you for your time today, Kirk. My question is kind of a big picture type question. With all the schools canceling spring ball this year, and who knows when these guys are going to be able to get out and work with each other in the summer like they normally do, how do you think that will affect the overall look of college football, either in training camp and then when the games start in September, if they do?
Well, that's a hard question to answer since, I've never experienced anything like this, right? We've never been through a situation like this. And obviously there's a lot bigger things going on than football right now in the world. So I'm not really sure. I feel like that it should be. I feel myself that I'm looking for the exact same product I've always looked for once we get out there on the field, and by the time we get a chance to play games, and that's the way I'm approaching it. And I'm not planning on lowering my standards, and I don't think anybody in the country is. Again, this is the situation that we've been presented with, right? And now we've got to adapt and overcome the adversities that we have here. We all face adversities, and everybody's facing all kinds of different adversities all throughout their life right now. And it's how do we choose to respond? And so I'm excited about it, and I expect to have the same type of product that we've always had out there in the field.
Last one, Elton Hayes, CNHI, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Coach, thank you for agreeing to do this with us this morning. You had mentioned the Zoom meetings to kind of test the players' intellect and cognitive abilities without having them on the field. I was wondering, due to the circumstances, a lot of these guys are limited. What are you doing, or what is Coach Galt doing to make sure that they're staying in shape physically, and are you checking in and monitoring that progress as well?
Yeah, the workouts that we're presenting to the kids, it's voluntary. It's not mandatory. So how are we checking on it? We're not, we're not, but the feedback has been great from the kids on it, that they're working hard and that they're doing it. So I don't know how anybody in the country is monitoring it. I think, again, we're all in the same situation. But that's, again, where the culture of the program comes into play, and the understanding that we need everybody. We're all in this together. We're all spokes in the wheels, so everybody's trusting everybody that they're doing their job and doing what they need to do to make sure they're come out of this, and Penn State football comes out of this in the best possible position that we can be in when this all ends right now.
All right. Thank you, Coach. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today.